Today on the show, strategy plus action equals showing up like a pro on camera. Success in business and life is a constant back and forth of charting your course and taking the consistent steps every day to move you forward. Both are critical. My guests on this show range from hardworking entrepreneurs starting from scratch to visionary leaders of cutting-edge companies looking to scale. I help you understand the strategies that are working for them and the actions you can take to model their success. For me, a show like this is all about joining forces with my guests to dig deep and create something new for you. Whether that's a small insight to get you unstuck or a path of massive growth through customized marketing and creative sales initiatives. Welcome to Strategy in Action. Welcome to episode 28 of Strategy and Action. I had to add a little layer of style here today because I knew my guest was going to bring it, and he did. Garrin Bulani is on the show today, and with his company Deskrig, he's helping all of us look better on camera. In this day, in this world of constant Zoom meetings, video content marketing, having to network remotely, appearance matters. How you show up matters. I think we all grasp that concept when we go to work or we go to a networking event, and we want to look professional, look sharp, not wrinkled, hair not messed up. We get all of that, and maybe we show up to our Zooms decently sometimes with all of that. But now with the virtual, the camera, all of this stuff, how our camera image looks, how the lighting looks, how the audio sounds, can people hear you and understand you? There's a level of professionalism that just matters. Whether we want it to or not, too bad. It's one of those things that if you embrace it and you level up your game in that area, it can really be an incredible competitive advantage, honestly. If you're listening to the audio podcast version of this right now, you may want to check out the YouTube version. We have some visuals that we share throughout here, and you can kind of see both of our setups on how we show up on camera. But really, what's important too is the why behind it. We dig into a lot of how Garrin helps people with all of this, not just the technical setup, but actually walking them through how to show up better on camera, create content, and all of that. But we also dig into all these other areas that you probably haven't thought of in order to use that competitive advantage and, just be that much more successful in this very virtual world of ours today. All right, let's jump in. Garrin Bulani, how is it going, sir?
What's going on? I appreciate it, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, of course. I've had a good stretch of just amazing people that I'm connecting with on LinkedIn, like really connecting with, not the, just connection request, but actually jumping in and hey, let's have a conversation. And that's exactly what you and I did the other day. And I love what you've got going on with Deskrig and your main offer now with really helping people show up better on camera. I really wanted to dig into how you're doing that, of course, but also why it's important, why it's a big deal, and why a lot of people don't think it is a big deal. But yeah, with Deskrig, give me a little summation of what you've got going with that, and then I want to kind of dig into a little bit of your background of leading up to that.
Definitely. No, I appreciate that, Jason. So Deskrig is essentially anything that you want to increase your virtual professionalism on. Deskrig has the ability to help you out with that. You talk about companies. There's a lot of companies that talk about the theory of how important video is and how important it is to show up proper on camera. And they tell you how important it is. And then they don't really leave you with any tangible items or action items to be able to actually implement that into your daily routine. So Deskrig, what I love about it is it's just a one-stop shop for anything virtual. If you need information on equipment, software, how to present yourself in a virtual world, it's a one-stop shop that you need to go to now without having to go to different companies, different products or anything like that. So it simplifies, because technology is scary. It can be scary, right? And I think this is why it's a limitation for a lot of individuals to really dive into it full bore, because they don't have time to learn about the technology. As you know, Jason, it's when you get into this kind of area, it's more of a movie production set opposed to just opening up your laptop and jumping onto a virtual call, right? That was acceptable a year and a half ago. because we were all thrown into that and nobody else had any other options. But there is a small percent that has really learned and really valued the concept of video and bringing a professional experience to any clients. And this is kind of where we're at. And it's funny you mentioned that, because this is how you and I met, Jason. We were on a web call, we were on a conference call, and it doesn't take long to see who's really adapting to the virtual selling and who are really just still trying to figure things out. And that's what it was. Hey, man, Jason's got a really good setup. I want to learn more about him. And that's really how Deskrig and how I generate a lot of clientele through content and through video. They say, how is he doing this constantly? And then the simple answer is Deskrig. And then we go from there, kind of thing. So it's a really interesting situation.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to dive into, a lot of that, the specifics around that offering that you have, because I know it goes beyond just sort of the setup, but actually, okay, now let's make some content for you and let's, go down that road. I want to dig into that a little bit, but also for people, I really want to, maybe if they're just tuning in a little bit and going like, yeah, I guess that's okay. I mean, this is a big deal. Appearance matters, just like you wouldn't want to walk into the conference room with a wrinkled suit and, messed up hair and all that kind of stuff. It really is the same thing, how you show up on camera. You may be dressed and what you have to say is great, but people can't see you, can barely hear you. You're there's just, like it or not, that is a level of professionalism. And like you said, it's evolved over this last year and a half. And there's a little more expectation there. But then even if you put all that aside, man, if you just use this as a competitive advantage, it's huge because the majority of people aren't doing it, aren't, taking that little extra step to show up better.
I love that. And because I came from a corporate world where I was selling a commodity item. It was very hard to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And I've always prided myself in providing my clients with a supreme experience, consumer experience that's memorable. And they're like, hey, I really enjoyed that whole process. So it started with me a year and a half ago. It's like, man, I'm gonna go buy a $40 webcam, right? And I brought this out. You see one of these, right? It started out with this $40, and I started joining calls. And man, your camera is, and this is a year and a half ago. Keep in mind, right? So it's
sure.
Hey, your camera is really good. What are you? Oh, I just bought a webcam. So, and then I bought an external microphone, and then it slowly graduated into the point where it's bringing a premium experience where it's bar none, and very confident to say we're in the 1% of people who are in the virtual world, and the faster people adopt to this scenario in this world, it's just going to open more doors for them, and it releases limitations. Even for myself, I live in a very small metropolitan area in Canada. For me to work in the corporate world to try to get promoted, I'd have to move to a Vancouver or a Toronto. And there's a high percentage of people who don't have the luxury just to pick up their things and move, right? So now, because I can't go there, I can go into a virtual world and I can present myself the way I would imagine myself to be presented in the real world, in a real life experience. And now I can go anywhere. And it's opened so many more doors for me in the virtual world. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. Very passionate about it.
Yeah, and it really is a differentiator. If somebody's on the fence of hiring you in the corporate world, right? Of like, I don't know, remote, but if you can show up like, oh man, if this is how she's going to show up or he's going to show up virtually, okay, I can see this working. It might be the thing that just puts you over the edge like that. And certainly in a selling environment, when even if the other person never consciously thinks about it, that's one of the things that happens a lot is they're just taking in everything, but in their head, in their subconscious, they're checking the boxes, right? Like, can I trust this person? Can I, are they seem legitimate? Like they seem successful enough. They seem, all these things that are happening. And they may never put together like, oh, his background, the plant that he had on the shelf back there, they're not doing that, but they're just taking in like, boom, check. Okay, now I can take in what you say, rather than, you show up to a webinar and somebody's teaching it and you're just like, I mean, it's just how we are as humans. If it's so poor and you can barely hear and all of that stuff, even if you stick around, you're going to, okay, let me turn my camera off. Let me do some other stuff. Like maybe that's something good to say, maybe not,
You're familiar with Zoom fatigue, Jason? You've heard of that before?
A little bit. I've started to hear the term float around. Yeah.
Okay. And this is a huge thing why a lot of individuals, especially in the business world, they hate virtual world because they get so grogged down by being on calls constantly. And it's not because you're on calls, but the virtual world is set. Your brain has to process so much stuff. It's like, okay, I'm looking at another human being, but they're not human sized. They're digital. So your brain is starting to, in the back, trying to really piece these things together. So your brain is automatically working at a higher revolution than it would just face to face. So if we're able to bring consumers where you're right, they don't really care about the backdrop, but because it's such a nice experience, it allows they can focus on me now. So if you're coming into a virtual setting and you have a bad camera, it's like you have to focus on, okay, how can I can't see this properly. So now your brain's not focusing on the person, it's focusing on how can I really distinguish this person. And then audio, when you get bad audio and it's chopping in and out, now the human brain has to put words to where it's being missed. So now it's all of a sudden concentrating on what you're saying opposed to what you're doing. So if you're able to bring all these elements together, I call it the tripod of virtual sales. You have camera, you have lights, and you have audio. If you're able to master those three things, your tripod, you're going to be very, very strong. If you lack in one of those tripods, you're at risk of falling. So that's really what it is, just to provide the human experience so they can concentrate on you opposed to all these other elements when you're working in the virtual world.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things for the folks who don't, they don't have a background in film or video and audio and all of that kind of stuff, it can definitely be overwhelming. And the whole thought of it is even, I don't even want to mess with it, because even if they, think somebody could set this up for me, how am I going to run? How am I going to do it? And that's what I really like about what you've got going on. And I want to make sure that everyone pays attention and understands is that most of this stuff, like once it's set. Like you have your, you have your setup. It took a while to get my DSLR talking to my computer and in the right spot with the right background. I took a day to get the lighting right and to do all of this stuff. But now it's a flip of the switch and you go, right? And you have some things that are even a little more elaborate, but it's still a quick process. So walk people through sort of the setup you're helping people with, but also that next step of now, how do you best use this? Because it's one thing to show up on a Zoom call. That's great. But you've got this setup. How do you create content with it and all that?
Definitely. And this is why it's so amazing, because you think about setups like this, people automatically assume, they must be in a studio. They must be in a big area where they have all the lights, all the cameras. Where what I was able to do in the last year and a half and what Deskrig has done is we created a micro studio to where if you have a 10 by 10 space available, it doesn't even have to be 10 by 10. That's being very generous as far as space. But if you have the ability to do that, you can have a real life production studio at your fingertips, and it allows you to, it's plug and play now. So what Deskrig does is, it's what the biggest hurdle for individuals, they need to understand that Deskrig is an investment. This is not like a transaction, a purchase. Hey, buy here, see you later, on to the next one. It's really
good luck.
And that's what's scary about it. And that's is where you think about all these boot camps and the theory. It's people are petrified of technology, and technology works amazing when it works, but just like what we've experienced, so sometimes you have to troubleshoot things. Sometimes things just don't work. So do you have the knowledge to be able to break down, hey, what part of this Deskrig is not working? Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And then you're self-sustained. You're not relying on anybody else. So Deskrig has a boot camp. It starts with the boot camp. Once you're available to make the investment into yourself, you say, hey, I'm ready to take the next step into the virtual world. We have an 8-week boot camp that walks you through step by step and how let's choose your equipment. Because guess what? The equipment in my setup is going to be different than yours, Jason, because you might be in a different style room. You might have natural lighting coming in. You might have no lighting coming in, right? So it's very intricate when it comes to that. So we sit down, we customize the space for you, and it's not like a one size fits all. So once we get that, we have all the equipment. Part of the boot camp is actually setting the equipment up with you, teaching you about the equipment. Hey, this is what this does. This is what that does. So it's not just us setting it up for you and then, all right, good luck. It's teaching you along the way. So you have a general idea of what your Deskrig does and what the capabilities are to do with it, because it goes far beyond than just showing up on a virtual call and looking good. We just set up a virtual assistant. You want to talk about a virtual assistant showing up looking like this consistently with their clients? She said there was no other virtual assistants doing anything like this. So this is automatically going to give her a competitive edge, right? When you talk about, hey, I think all virtual assistants are the same. They're not, but how do you differentiate yourself with that? And this is the capability of doing that, right? So we have that. And then what we do is we actually walk you through custom creative. So you can see here, they call it a lower third, where it has my branding and everything. So this is all customized towards you. So after we get all the equipment and everything set up for you, it goes into the creative. So you can see here, we call this a lower third. So this is almost like it's a business app or it's a branding for you. So when you go into a group webinar, rather than just having that little gray box that says, Jason Croft on it or Garrin Bulani, you have something that actually stands out, right? And it catches the eye of anybody who's watching, and they, hey, that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden you brought the appearance to you because you're actually differentiating yourself from the whole group and what everybody else is doing. And this is customized to you. And then we have intros and we have outros that come into this creative package that we designed directly for you. So when you go into any sort of setting, you're controlling everything. And then after we get that all set up, there's a software that we teach you to use. So, and this is what I love about this, because you have Zoom, you have Microsoft Teams, you have Skype, you have Google Hangouts, you have all these different platforms, and every single one of them wants to be different. So Microsoft Teams, you share a screen this way, but when you go to Google Hangouts, you have to share a screen that way. So there's so much stuff you have to learn. So now we have a one platform, one software that communicates with all the other softwares. So you just have to remember one button shares a screen. One button brings the camera back to you. Mm-hmm. It is extremely simplified. So when you talk about the fear and scare of technology, we eliminate that completely through the boot camp. And then even after the boot camp, we have technical support for you. So this is not, it's what I really love about it, because it's almost like you're coming into a community. It's not just, and you're intertwining yourself in the Deskrig community, where we're able to help you and give you exposure and do whatever you need, while being able to teach yourself all of this rather than just telling you what to do. You teach you. So then, there might be a day where, hey, I'm okay without Deskrig, and you're a self-sustained individual who can create whatever you imagine you want to create.
Oh, yeah.
So it's truly remarkable.
Yeah, I love that too, because again, back to sort of like, once you get it set up and these couple of things, like it's like any other software, it's like any other thing that you're using every day. It's just becomes second nature, and I'm speaking from experience. You're only doing one or two things with this during a call, even during a presentation and stuff like that. So that becomes muscle memory and all of that. Before we go down the road of content creation with all of this, which is something else you help people with, I want everybody to think about the scenario that Garrin just described of how we connected, right? We're just participants in a call. It's a Zoom thing, so we can see each other. And that sparked conversation in the chat, and all of that. So think about that in showing up to LinkedIn events, showing up in, with a group of 100 people who are your ideal clients, right? Because that topic that the speaker's presenting on is something that all of your ideal clients want help with, want to know about. And now, if you can use that platform as that conversation starter. Sure, you can, after the fact, kind of like try to, catch everybody. But think about just during that presentation of the people who are going to react to you because you show up. But also if you take that initiative and oh, hey, Jamie, I love that point that he just said, or, hey, I love that picture that's behind you, or something like that. And you start that conversation. Well, they're looking at that pro setup of yours, and you're like, oh man, this is, they've got it together. And hey, I've got this little training, just little ideas that these kind of differentiators, they're huge when they add up over time, especially, I think, especially when you're in sales, you're an entrepreneur, you're selling for yourself, any of that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I've been in sales for over a decade. And, when you go on LinkedIn is a very powerful tool if you use it properly. right? You go on there once a week and just look and you're just viewing, you're probably not going to get very much out of it. But if you're in there, you're contributing, you're commenting, you're actually engaging in the platform. I joke because there's a lot of sales trainers on LinkedIn. They talk about cold calling. Cold calling is the way to go, this and that. And there's other people's like social selling. This is how you do it. And I respect both, because there is nothing better than having the ability to be able to pick up the phone and talk with someone. But I've kind of created, it's almost like a modern cold calling where I'll pick one evening. Any evening I have in the week, and it's almost like wedding crashing. I'll just go to Zoom calls. I'll just go to conferences, whatever's on LinkedIn, whatever event's going on right now, I'm just popping in. And I have a waiting room and I show up, and it's very evident when you have a setup like this, that's how far and few between there are people. If I go on with 50 people, there might be 2 people who have a setup like this, maybe, but you show up. And there's times where, and then, you go into the big group, and then you get sectioned into micro groups. And I just sit there and everyone's like, what are you doing? How do you look like that? And then hey, this is what I do. I work with individuals to increase their professionalism online. I'd love to tell you more about it if you have interest. And then all of a sudden, I'm making connections, valuable connections with actual individuals, right? Not just clicking connect. They know what I do. And the proof's in the pudding. Video does not lie, right? You go in there and it shows all that stuff. So modern cold calling, I just show up on video calls, Zoom calls, and I just sit there and stand, and they eventually will get conversations going. So it's truly remarkable, just the power of what this gives people.
That's great. It's sort of that, you get to proactively lurk, right? It's that combination, right? It's so good. And make sure, if you're listening to this, make sure you understand, like, it doesn't just work for Garrin because he's selling that service. Like, people are still going to spark that conversation. I've had people, just comment, I don't sell that service, but people are just like, oh man, this looks great. And it's just a conversation starter. It's
instant credibility. You build credit. It's like, that person is doing something right. He looks credible. I want to know what they're doing. Right. You're right. Yeah. It doesn't have to be in sales or anything, but it's just credibility of wow. And that's how much of a difference it is.
Yeah. And I think all of us can, we all want to be human and just have a conversation, but some of us need that help to start it. Right. And so we can have something like that the other person starts, oh, awesome. Now I have just a way to start communicating. That's fantastic. So dive in a little bit on, the bootcamp side of things. You're also helping people with how to create their own content, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we actually have a brand strategist that's part of the boot camp. So there's about six individuals. And I want to make note that this boot camp that we do, it's one-on-one training and it's exclusive training. There's a lot of boot camps that are group settings. Mm-hmm. Deskrig does individual settings. So you're getting the full support and 100% of the focus is on you, opposed to like a big group of generalizations. So there's content creation is a huge buzzword, right? And you talk about media and marketing and just being able to generate whatever you need, where I feel a lot of the times people think it's the idea, they can't come up with ideas. I don't know what to talk about and this and that. When reality, we have thousands of thoughts a day. I have a notebook in my phone. I'll be walking. And because I have a content schedule every single day, all my Mondays are motivational quotes talking. So every time I think of something, I write it down. And then now I even have, I block out media days is what I call them. So I'll take 3, 4, 5 hours and I'll just shut all my media off. I'll turn my Deskrig on and I'll just start filming. And I'll do back to back to back and I'll just kind of content build it up. I have a whole bank of content that I haven't even posted yet just because it's not the time or, whatever it is. So it has the ability to do that. So ideas can be changed. You can inspire individuals to talk. And I think individuals need to realize what they're going on through their head, what they think about. There are thousands of other people that have those similar thoughts and, would love somebody to hear somebody, oh, there's another person who actually thinks like that or has that idea. I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to encourage people too that, along those same lines that, because we all go through that. We have that thought process because we think, okay, I'm going to start posting content. And you think 2 years down the road of like, how am I going to still be posting something that, number one, just start. But number two is it's amazing what happens, whether you're a writer, you're going on video, doing an audio podcast, it's amazing the filter that happens once you start doing this and you're posting, because now you have this filter as you go through your day, like you're talking about, something will happen and it will pass through the filter of, oh, wow, there's an important lesson to that. That would be worth sharing with my audience, with my industry, that I never would have put together before.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is I feel a lot of people have, how many times when we, as we grow, we think of an invention. Oh man, that'd be really cool. It's an idea, but nothing happens because you don't have the tools, you don't have the means, or you don't have the proper setup to be able to take action on this $1 million invention that you just thought of in your head. Content creation is a very, very similar thing. You have an idea in your head. Oh yeah, that'd be great to talk about. But because you don't have a proper setup, and you think you want to go through the whole effort, it's the guy, and then it just passes through. So that whole idea of having an idea, it's not the idea thing, it's the ability to actually create the content. And that's what Deskrig gives you, the ability. And we inspire through the boot camp. We actually bring ideas for you, and we find, hey, what's your market? Who are you really trying to attract? Because, like me personally, I'm in sales. I'm a sales trainer. I like to attract my LinkedIn pages for individuals who want to increase their professionalism when it comes to sales training. Not everybody's like that. And that's okay. There's therapists. There are, virtual sales assistants. There's teachers. There's so many different platforms where you can hone in on your market. So Deskrig actually helps you identify what market you want to attack, what image you want to portray, what brand do you want to bring these clients that you're about to find. And then as far as helping you find ideas, it seems like the biggest problem in the virtual world and content creation, but it's not. The ideas are never. It's the ability to be able to bring those ideas to life. And that's what Deskrig does for you. And then once you have a setup like this, and once you can just click one button, you can start recording this, and it looks great, you'll get the wheels rolling, and then it's just a matter of editing. And that's going to the post-production, and a lot of people don't like to. I don't have time to edit. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do all this stuff. Hey, that's cool. If you can't be good at everything, and Deskrig even has a service for that too. If you want somebody to be able to do editing or anything on tap, we have those solutions for you. And that's why it's amazing. That's why Deskrig is a one-stop shop for anything. We can break it all out, but anything you want to achieve in the virtual world, Deskrig will be able to help you attain that. That's
really good. Yeah, because that's even if somebody doesn't know that that's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem. When it comes to editing.
You can be great at editing, but then it's just time. We only have 24 hours. Everybody, right? So how do you utilize that to your most? Yeah. Some people don't want to spend 2-3 hours editing, right? So, and that's okay. Right. So you can outsource those things, and they can be very cost effective.
Oh yeah. So going through that boot camp, do you walk people and kind of give them or help them establish their content calendar? So similar to what you talked about, your Mondays are motivational, or this, because to me, I've found that that's everything. If you can just batch, like, I know what I'm going to do, and then I can create to that rather than just the blank page.
Yes. Whoever's listening right now, if you want to get into content creation, you need a content calendar. You need, what are you going to talk about on Monday, Tuesday, or even find the days you want to post. You might not want to post every day, maybe every other day. Find what days you want to post, and find a topic you want to talk about, and it will change your whole thought process when it comes to content creation. So we bring that in the boot camp, but we also help you record your first video, and we edited your very first video for you. So we get everything set up for you. And then at the end of the boot camp, myself, I have a live show. I have the LinkedIn wish list that I post on every Friday. And then I also have Saturday Night Vibe on LinkedIn, but also the other co-founder, Garrin Parkins. So this is what's cool about Deskrig. You just type in Garrin, however you want to spell it, you're going to find one of us. And he also has a podcast show on Friday where we also bring the exposure. So our boot campers are actually getting a platform right after they're done all of this. We do the video with you, we edit it for you, and we post it for you. We get your first post. That's the hardest one to get out. And then we put it on a platform for others to see. And then it's a total support group after that. So it's truly remarkable walking it through. So when you're leaving the Deskrig Bootcamp, you not only have the equipment, the knowledge, the capabilities, but we have the first video that we're going to post on there for you on your pages, and then we'll help promote it for you also as being a graduate with the Bootcamp at Deskrig.
Yeah, that's strong. That's strong, because that's everything. Once you can see it, then that changes everything. Like, oh, okay, I actually can look like, an intelligent human being on on camera,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's everything. I think that's really smart. What about the folks who are still like, okay, but I don't want to be on camera. I'm not going to be good. I don't know that. I don't have the skills. I don't like. How are you kind of holding their hand and tackling some of that?
Well, it's good. And I don't like being on video because it's self-conscious, right? That's probably a huge obstacle for us, but it's truly amazing. I talked about the 3 pillars. You have audio, you have visual, and lighting. You'd be amazed on what the concept of lighting does. You can highlight features that maybe you're more confident with, and you can low light features that, hey, I'm a little bit self-conscious about this. And it's just a matter of having open conversation about that. And even angles, it's some people, the double chin they're worried about, but a lot of the times, if you just stick your chin out a little bit, very slightly, you don't notice it so much on camera, but it eliminates features that you're maybe not confident with. So we work with those. It's just a matter of having the open conversation. And we get that. Hey, are you self-conscious on camera? No problem. Let's work and achieve that, because whether we like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, video and this virtual, it's not going anywhere. And this is what I'm trying to say. You can delay it now and regret it 2 years from now, or you can just join us and we can all get through. Nobody's sitting there and judging you how you look in all reality, right? Like what's the message? That's what they want to know is, hey, is this an enjoyable experience? Can I actually focus on the individual on the screen? And are they saying
look professional? Can I hear them? Can I? Yeah. And then it's
exactly,
it's the content. Yeah.
And so we bring that, we can bring that confidence with the individual. That's just a simple conversation. And I feel after they get the boot camp, once they realize how they can utilize lighting, and you actually get a camera that imitates you the best of your ability, right? A lot of times you don't look on camera because you have a camera that has terrible pixelation and it doesn't really show you who you are, right? So then you have a camera that has that, and we've had clients had that. We're scared to go. Once they go through the boot camp, they get more confident. It's like, oh, okay, this is not too bad. And when they leave the boot camp, it's all a true revolution, because it motivates me, because I had the same look that these individuals do on the boot camp. And when they leave, my worst fear is getting everybody set up with the Deskrig and not utilizing it to the most of their capability, because that's a waste of investment. So we want you to use it. We encourage you to use it. So you got to get over the fear of video. You have to, because it's not going anywhere, and the longer you delay it, the longer you're going to be further behind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've given talks around that. The fact that I just kind of start off with like, well, you're a media company now, like it or not, like, sorry, actually I'm not, but like, jump in, this is just something that is a reality in business today, and you need to figure it out. And then I can tell you from firsthand experience, it is all about doing the reps, just like in sales and that cold calling, right? It's about doing the reps. But the benefit, the light at the end of the tunnel for folks, even if they don't care about creating content or how they show up, I will tell you that it will change the way you communicate in real life. Everything that you do, it's the most amazing process. Because when I first show that I had, several years ago, I just did it as like, nobody else is going to do it. I'll just sit here and do it, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing you won't want to do is watch all your stuff back. Listen to your stuff back. None of us want to. None of us like our voice. But 2 things will happen. One is over time and pretty quickly, you'll get to this disconnecting point to where there isn't that self-conscious. You aren't evaluating it as you and, oh, I sound nasally today. And I do that. Oh, man, that'll separate out, and you'll actually view it in this very, objective way as this thing like, oh, wow. Yeah, you'll almost feel, a little egotistical, right? Because like, oh, that was a really good clip today. That was a really good, because the point got across, and so that's one thing that'll happen. The second thing that'll happen is you'll yell and scream at yourself, because you'll hear your ums and ahs and oh, that's awesome. Oh yeah, that's, if it's an interview situation, for instance, the thing you say over and over again. For me, a big one for me early on was not finishing a freaking sentence. Like, I would listen to an interview back, and I'm just like, good grief, man, finish a thought. Come on, And so I think about that when I'm standing across from somebody in real life and having that conversation too. So it really is, it's so beneficial far beyond just maybe, showing up on a Zoom call and looking nice. This goes so far beyond that.
I love that you said that, because, and it's funny because I call it constructive criticism. There's criticism where they're just, you're doing stuff just to bring yourself down. But then there's constructive criticism. Exactly. She says, man, I'm saying a lot. I should really stop saying a lot. And this, I leave all my videos that I started this, over a year and a half ago of doing videos, just like you. I'm going to throw this up just because nobody else is doing it and I need practice. You can go back. If you want to scroll back on my LinkedIn far enough, you'll find some really, really bad to what it is now. But I go back and I watch videos. It's like when you're an athlete and you're watching game film. How can I, okay, let's go through this. How can I provide a better message at a faster rate? Because you want to talk about content creation. If you're over 3 minutes, you lost them, right? Which is frustrating and it's difficult. But being able to, can I bring the message faster? Was it a good video? Did I bring the image that I thought I was going to? And if not, how can I make that change? So then when you go into the next video, and it even just comes down to equipment. Hey, I'm going to try dual microphones today. And then I'm watching it back. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good at all. Let me turn the gain down on that and do this. Or the lighting too. Oh man, the lighting on this was way overexposed. Let me turn it down. And then I'll do the video, the next day's video. It's like, okay, that's amazing. And then gradual steps to get better and better and better, because you're constructive criticism. So it is good. And then you bring that into, I love that you say you bring that into the real life, because now you're mindful of that. You're right. So you start public speaking, you're like, oh, I used to say I'm a lot, or I couldn't finish sentences. I got to put that in and then when you're a person, it relays it. So I love that. That's good. That's a good point.
And exactly to your point as well. If you look at anybody out there who is there, right? Like we look at them of like, oh man, if I could get there one day of being able to present like them or be on camera like them, have, an audience like them, every one of them will tell you exactly what you just said. They'll say, go back and look. It was horrible. And every single one of them still has them up, still has that, so they can show the journey, but also because it's still valuable. Yes, they've evolved to this point, but there's still value in those first videos and those first posts. And so I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point. So how do people, reach out and connect with you, and who you're looking for that's, going to be perfect for Deskrig?
And at the end of the day, our perfect candidate is someone who's willing to make an investment on themselves. I have a lot of individuals that schedule a call with me, and they're like, I'll do this. Hey, I have a light, I have a camera. How come I don't look like you? It's like, well, because this was acceptable a year and a half ago. It's not so much now, right? So anybody who's really, willing to just bring a premium experience, invest in video, you can go to www.deskrig.com. You can also connect with myself, Garrin Bulani, on LinkedIn. You can connect with the other Garrin Parkins on LinkedIn. So I always joke, I'm the Canadian Garrin, and then we got the Tennessee Garrin down there also. And then we can, this is a really good example of what I talk about here. Let me switch this over. So I'm going to transition this over. So if you want to scan that QR code, if you're watching from a desktop right now, you can scan that QR code on your phone. It'll pop up a 15-minute Deskrig experience. That'll be a booking with myself. And I will sit down and I will take 15 minutes to show you all the capabilities that you can do and cater it towards yourself. And I assure you, it'll be the best Zoom experience you've ever had. That's what I've been told. So I put that on the top there. So you can scan that QR code and find more. And this is the stuff that Deskrig gives you the capability to do, right? And
that's it right there. Have any of you, I guarantee nobody watching this has had that experience right there. Having somebody pop that up, hey, do this, go here, all that professionalism. That's the kind of stuff you can get. I think that's fantastic.
It was this is truly fun, and I love being able to come on and being able to talk about this, because so many don't know that it's not as hard as you think. Technology is not as scary as it needs to be. You just need the proper guidance, and I've been through all the steps. I wish I had a boot camp that I could have gone through in 8 weeks and not had to learn all of this on my own. Really do, right? So this is why it's truly remarkable. 8 weeks, you're doing exactly what I'm able to do on a daily basis. It's truly remarkable.
Fantastic. Garrin, thanks so much. This has been a blast. and we'll see you all next time.
Listen, anytime. I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of this show. If you ever need help building out custom strategies for your business or deciding what actions to take next, head over to MediaLeadsCo.com and let's connect. I'll talk to you soon on the next Strategy in Action.